Her heart creates a tide. And when the water rushes away, there's so much that she can't say. So the words pour out like blood from her face. Another letter wrote in vain again. Bottled up and washed up on the sand. Another letter wrote in vain again. Keeps her alive inside. She don't even Another letter wrote in vain again. Bottled up and washed up on the sand. Another letter wrote in vain again. Keeps her alive inside. Another letter wrote in vain again. Bottled up and washed up on the sand. Another letter wrote in vain again. Keeps her alive inside. Alive inside. Keeps her alive.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. Chris, if you could do me a favor and zoom in on that to about 140%, if you could give that to me there. Guys, we are here again on another gorgeous Sunday night in Buffalo, New York. It's a wild time. It's a wild time. I've had the week from hell. It's throughout the course of this podcast tonight, you're going to think that I'm maybe fighting a cold, maybe I'm getting sick or something, or whatever. Maybe I have a addiction to Colombian. Maybe I've been using too much of the Colombian rowdy powder. The reality is I've had a week from hell. And it's funny that it comes on the heels of us turning 9 years old as a podcast, that I had this week in the run-up to what this podcast is going to be tonight. Chris, how did you manage the Buffalo heat wave?
I sweated at work.
Oh yeah, because you were
Nonstop. I have to work B shift, so I'm
Yep.
working 3 to 11, and you're just sticky, sweaty, hot, nonstop.
because you work in an unair conditioned factory.
Well, part of it's air conditioned. My part is. If you go to another part, they have certain sections that have full-blown AC. Mine does not, and I was just sticky, sweaty, hot throughout the whole thing.
I could sit here at the risk of some of our listeners being labeled as a whiner or too much small talk. Let me run this down for you. Last Thursday, when we found out that this heat wave was coming, my air conditioner died in my house. The air conditioner died in my office that week. So I was dealing with that. It's a tech came out and got it running up to 60%, but it's going to have to be replaced. So I've got that going for me. Also, I decided like an idiot that this was the week I needed to pressure wash my deck. So I was out there and completely tear down and rebuild my swimming pool. Luckily, with the help of my father and my brother, we were able to get that up and running. And I'm just now like working my way through all the, Chris, it's almost July and I don't have my pool completely ready yet.
It's nothing special because it's an above-ground swimming pool.
It's not just an above-ground
Because
swimming pool.
you're poor.
It's a kayak pool from the 80s it just won't fall down. So now it's just here. It's a fixture of the house that I bought, and I'm stuck with it. But also, and where we're going to start, Chris, I broke the Geneva Convention this week. I broke the Geneva Convention. Now, we've got a lot ahead tonight. We're going to talk about our 9-year anniversary. We're going to talk a lot about a little inside baseball about podcasting, about this team, the way it's evolved during the time that we've been here, and just some of our thoughts and feelings about that. But I want to start by Chris has made me a gorgeous looking cocktail. I like the fact that it's frosted the glass and it almost looks like what you would think an iceberg looks like. For those of you listening to the audio form, it's an orangish pink color. Obviously, there's some citrus in here with a clear liquor. Crushed ice, not his usual ritzy ice. I'm interested. Okay, I can taste some bitters, and I taste what is probably lime juice. What do you got going on here? Because it's really light and refreshing considering how friggin' hot it's been.
It's called a Death in the Gulf Stream. It's like a Ernest Hemingway cocktail. So it's 2 ounces of Genever, an ounce of lime juice, half ounce of simple syrup, and like 5 dashes of Angostura bitters. And then you throw in whatever lime you squeezed out, throw that rind in while you shake to help get some of the lime oils off the lime and into the cocktail. Fairly easy beverage.
That's way more effort than I'm going to put. That's more effort than I usually, like, over the course of the last few weeks, I've put into these podcasts. Like the prep work. That drink is more complicated than the prep work I've been doing.
It's 3 ingredients.
You're talking about shakers?
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
have to
shaking. The only
you have
shaking
to shake a cocktail.
The only shaking going on in my house, if I'm drinking, is Eddie Money blasting on a radio somewhere, and that's like I used to get cut off at bars. When I was a bar fly and I had my corner bar that I frequented for just years and everybody there knew me, I would get cut off if they heard Eddie Money shaking more than 3 times inside of a half-hour window because they knew it's that I got so drunk I forgot that I played it the first time and then also forgot that I played it the second time. And that was their acid test of, all right, that guy has had enough. He's cut off. This is a delicious beverage, and it's fitting for a really hot week here in Buffalo. So, I almost didn't make it here to do... Chris, I almost didn't live long enough to see our 9th anniversary as podcasters because as I'm rebuilding my pool and monkeying around with all the connections, I have one of those auto chlorinator devices. You take these pucks, they're made of just, I don't know the science behind it, but it's dried chlorine, and you drop it in there and then adjust the feed, and it, whenever you run your filter, just automatically chlorinates your pool so you don't have to do it by hand and carry on jugs and stuff. But this stuff is dissolving inside here, and when you pressurize anything while it's dissolving like that, you create gas. Now, Chris, I don't know, because you don't strike me as a history buff. Do you know what chlorine gas was a major component of?
I have no idea.
Mustard gas was outlawed. I believe it was after World War I. It might have been after World War II. Someone's going to have to check me on when it was officially outlawed for use against human combatants, but mustard gas was used. It's chlorine gas, Chris. It was a yellow color, and that's why they called it mustard gas, and it would fall on people and just imagine something that would just corrode your lungs as you breathed it in.
I like it.
Okay. I'm underneath the deck of a kayak pool, a shitty, rusting kayak. But it's not shitty. It looks really nice. It's just an old... I mean, those things they're built like tanks. I'm under the decking of this thing, which is probably only about waist high. And the chlorinator has a check valve, a pressure release screw that you're supposed to check and then let the pressure out and vent the gas before you actually open it. Me, being the idiot that I am, decided I didn't have time or patience. It's dark. I have a headlamp on. I'm sweaty. It's still like 88 degrees in the dark. And I'm under this thing, and I decide, you know what? I'm just going to muscle this thing open. I don't even care. And when I did, the hiss and the yellow gas that came out of this thing, I couldn't breathe. I almost didn't make it out from underneath the pool deck. Like there was I was under there for about 45 seconds, and I think if I had stayed longer, I might have really been in trouble, but I was face down in it when it happened. My sinuses are still a mess, but the next day I could barely talk. My nose still burned. My eyes were watering like into the next day. Chris, it was chaos.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Good thing you're blind or have that.
My eyes were already screwed.
Your eyes would get even more screwed.
So I almost wasn't here to celebrate, Chris, what has been 9 years of podcasting with you.
Well, if I didn't have to work B shift, we would have recorded on Thursday, our normal day, on the day, 9 years to the day, the 20th, to celebrate.
It's funny. I'm looking at my phone on a podcast that's live. People are going to complain about that. People are whiners, is what I've figured out.
Yeah, they don't like any of this.
We'll strap in. Guys, 9 years. I want to talk to you about some statistics about podcasting because I think a lot of you have a weird understanding because you've seen a handful, especially here in the Buffalo market. You've become accustomed to a handful of Bills podcasts that have done really, really well for themselves. And it's funny because we've known these guys. It was funny watching Joe Marino comment on the tweet you put out about our 9-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Refer to us as the OGs. It's cool that there's guys like that who can look at us and go, they're hacks, but man, I got to give it to them. They're still hanging in there.
Yeah, we had 3. It was us, Numb Bills fan, and Bills and Beers, which
we met Eric Turner when he was just getting started.
Train horns.
We met Eric Turner. I want to give you guys so you guys I think have become accustomed to seeing the success of those kind of networks and believing that that's what sports podcasting is and what it should be. And like anybody who's not on that thing, I think, Chris, stop me if I'm wrong. What do you think that's almost intimidating to people who want to enter the podcast space? Like they see these people who have been doing long-running shows and who have these giant platforms and they've got thousands of YouTube subscribers, and they go, oh, well, it would take me so long to catch up to that, and I got to find a thing, and I got to find a way to differentiate myself. It almost creates a barrier to entry to this, don't you think?
Yeah, I would. I'm not sure I would jump into the space now if it wasn't for going to see Bob Kelly in 2013 and finding out what a podcast was. So I bought most of the equipment that we used to start.
Yeah.
And it's, we're not famous. You won't be like The Undertaker has a podcast now that he's retired. So he's going to jump into the space and immediately get listens because he's The Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
You're Drew Gear. I'm Chris Kruger. No one gives a fuck about us. So we have to be able to
do something, right?
Build some credibility.
And then destroy that credibility.
Yeah, destroy the credibility.
And then build it back up a little bit, only to kick the chair out from under it again. I mean, guys, those of you who are just finding us, you have no idea. You have no idea the shenanigans. I want to run some statistics by you guys. As of last year, the average lifespan of a podcast, Chris, if you wanted to guess, what is just a podcast that's a serialized thing, more than one episode? How many shows do you think the average one has lasted?
I bet podcasts last somewhere between, I'm going to say if you're doing one a week, I would say between 50 and 75 is my guess.
Episodes?
So like technically around a year and a half.
174 days. So about 6 months is the average lifespan for a podcast. Now, they came up with these numbers by taking a look at every podcast that's ever uploaded. If you go back to 2018 and you look at every podcast that's uploaded more than one episode, and then you look at who's still doing it and where people dropped off. When was their last post? This is verifysagan.com. So again, take this for what it's worth. They did the math, not me. I'm not that smart, nor do I care. But it's interesting seeing that the average podcast has lasted about 6 months. Like that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, only 11% of podcasts make it to 50 episodes. So what you just said, this is according to an article on LinkedIn. What you just said about everything lasting 50 to 75, less than 12% make it to that point. That seems weird when you think about us and the fact that it's now 9 years into this and we're still trying new things. We're still here.
Well, that's the beauty of this is our own brand. So we're not
I can't do that on the Fire tablet skill.
All right.
Go to Alexa app to manage video.
We'll just cut that.
See, I love this, guys. This is what I'm talking about.
There's my tablet that when we play clips, it comes from the tablet. So apparently Alexa was listening to me. But yeah, podcasting, it's like you look at Reed and Blake, they haven't done a show in, I think, 2 years. And they never announced that they weren't doing a show or stopped doing it. But they did mention at some point this summer that I think I heard it from Blake that they might be coming back. I just stopped getting stuff from them in my email. So I'm like, I guess I don't have work to do. But it's the beauty of having your own brand and not being tied to something is that you get to try something. If you
Whenever you feel like it.
AFC East Roundup, perfect example. Drew wanted to do a 15-minute hit with a podcaster from each team within the division, release it as a show. Yeah, let's try it because we can fucking do that. It's our brand. We get to do what we want. Blue Wire, who we're signed to, Podcast Network, they don't tell us that we can't do that.
No, nobody tells us what to do, and we own it, and I like that. What I also like is that you guys, for those of you who are around, like I like that this is live on YouTube. I'm not even watching it. Like I'm learning things. We're going to talk about that dynamic.
Well, you didn't tweet it out, so I did.
Nope. No, I did not, because I don't care. I need you guys to understand this. We've had a lot of fun over 9 years. Chris, what are some of the more memorable moments for you? 9 years of a podcast.
But if the Bills draft Josh Allen, I would grab a beer for each hand and launch myself backwards down the nearest flight of stairs.
There you go.
That's a deep cut.
Deep cut, yeah.
That's a deep cut. Yeah. Do you remember that there was a day where I thought the Buffalo Bills selecting Josh Allen was going to be the worst idea on the planet? And I'm not alone. I'm not unique. I don't think that makes me special, guys. So I'm not like over here like, oh man, look at this thing. The visceral hatred, though. Like all of the people who were like, oh man, I was really upset. Were you naked screaming on a balcony upset? Because if not, I don't want to hear about it.
Drew's the only podcaster who doesn't incessantly plug his own work. From Ryan Lasel.
Awesome. The funny thing is I forget. I actually forgot to upload this last week's podcast until yesterday. It just randomly dawned on me that, oh man, we recorded 7 days ago and I forgot to upload one.
Yeah, there's a little inside baseball for everybody on the audio side. Is I edit the podcast, put it together, I put it in a queue to be uploaded to the internet, and then Drew handles titling the episodes and then writing the description. And that's been sitting in there for I don't know, a couple days. I also with that episode I had my own fucking blunder. I had to privatize the video when it came out. I did it like 2 hours after because I think I titled it like the AAV of Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence's contracts, like $107.5 million and no playoff wins, having forgot
that they played each other
in that comeback game.
Yeah.
So I had to put it in private and then change the thumbnail because we have to look. We're slightly new to YouTube, so we need to have some kind of credibility.
We don't, though. That's the beauty of this. I don't think we do, and I think that a lot of these things are overblown.
We're the dream team of marketing, according to Lasel.
What about one of my favorite bits and one of my favorite things to have been associated with over the 9 years of this has been the airing of Bill's grievances. We started it because Rex Ryan literally just took everything I had, just stole it from me like the Grinch. And it was the only thing I could find to make it funny. And it's one of those things where I always see people get mad when I did this bit and now other people are using it, or I did something and now some other group is doing a thing that sounds like the same thing. Anybody can sit down and get hammered and yell about the things that make them upset. If you can make it funny, kudos to you. You should at least take a shot at that. And anybody who wants to try to do that, the floor is yours. Chris's idea to put "Oh Christmas Tree" behind it while we did it was that was genius.
Yeah. That's
We've been doing it now
that's
for
actually
almost a decade.
That's our longest running bit on the show is the airing of grievances.
What else, Chris? Anything else over 9 years that has stood out to you?
I mean, I've got family members that I'd like to headbutt sometimes, and in some cases, I have.
I don't.
How much of this B-roll do you have?
I went searching for some and I uploaded some to the tablet. I mean,
What else
you
do you
can't
got?
you can't do a whole bunch because for the first 7 to 8 years it was all audio.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have a video aspect of the podcast, you don't want to play long bits,
No.
long audio bits on video. But I mean, I do have 3 more.
Oh, boy. I want to
So-
see what you've curated. Show me what you remember most of 9 years.
You guys are fucking killing me. I want to scream. I want to throw my beer against the wall right now.
I mean, I don't know if that was on an episode or
That might have just been us talking in the kitchen.
It could have been us fighting.
Chris and I, that's one of the things you guys don't know. Chris and I battle in here. We often talk about this dynamic that Chris and I are the only people working in the podcast space for the Buffalo Bills right now. And I think in a lot of sports podcasts, when I see a 2-man show or a 3-person show, like I can do this thing where I look at this camera and then I turn and I look at this camera. And the camera can follow me because my idiot producer is right over there. We are in the same room within throwing distance, within screaming distance. We're not going to resort to physical violence because that just wouldn't be fair. Just wouldn't be fair. Chris is a pacifist.
How do you
A
think?
snarky
How do you
pacifist.
think a Seagram's bet came to be? we don't want each other's money. We
I
bet shame.
All I can think of is the movie Tombstone. I want your blood, and I want your soul, and I want them both right now. That's what the Seagram's bets were the equivalent of. It's like, I want to watch you suffer because I'm right here. I can watch you do it. And so out of that, what you guys don't get to see, like the little bit that bleeds into the podcast, I'm sure you guys have snickered at over the years. You have no idea the way we battle. When the mic, like Ryan Lasel he's in the chat right now. He has been party to it. And I remember the one day he made a comment. He was in the studio. Chris and I are really just digging at each other. These are like personal attacks across the board. And we're not even kidding. Like there's no joking about this. We were genuinely mad at each other, literally just about podcast stuff and the way that this all was going and what was happening. And he made a comment about how it was like an American Beauty when the guy stands up and throws his plate of spaghetti against the wall. And he just has to sit there. He's like, all right, well, I'm here in the room with these 2 morons. It's real. And I think that that's what friends, good friends, can do. I think that friends can have a disagreement and then go home and bitch to their wives about it. I think that real friends can just absolutely battle and say the worst things to each other, knowing full well that once we're done, it's over. It's over. We shut the mics off. He tells me to go to hell. I tell him to go to hell. I pack up, and then tomorrow I'll text him a funny meme and we'll laugh about this.
Yeah, well, like, so whenever people come over, i.e. Ryan Lasel, and we get into an argument or a disagreement about how the show should be run or time frame of guests and doing things, my job is to say something to make Ryan feel completely uncomfortable that he's like, I need to leave. I got to go back to Rochester. I can't be in between this. I'm uncomfortable. That's my job when we're arguing, is to say something incredibly uncomfortable about you so it makes our guest feel uncomfortable and unwanted. That's how I do things.
So what you just heard is very likely an actual, like that's actual B-roll. That's probably just the mics are rolling and we haven't started the show yet.
Confirmed by Lasel. Chris is very good at creating uncomfortable situations.
And that's how he and I balance each other out, guys. And that is the balance of what our podcast has been and become over the course of almost a decade. What else do you got over there for me?
You want to run long? We can run.
Sure. Hit me with one.
And that was just the Buffalo Bills dropping a game to the Jacksonville Jaguars overseas in front of the entire world. I'm glad that at
all,
least
can we
2/3
pause
of
it?
our country tuned in.
I mean, I can stop it and then have to restart it.
I just
I'll
want
have
to say
fi-
that
I'll
I
have
can
to-
already tell by the way I'm speaking, I am bombed in that.
This is a 9:00 game. I'm gonna have to.
Do you have the condensed version of the EJ Manuel rant?
That's what it was.
Mm.
But then you were like,
Yep.
"Oh, hey, can you pause it?"
No, because I can tell the way I'm slurring my words and just you know what, guy? That was the first and only game day podcast we ever tried to record. I don't think we ever tried to do a show on the day of the game ever again, did we?
No.
It gives me a whole look at how the Cover One guys do things and how Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn have to go like process the game and then step in front of a camera and have a nuanced conversation with all of you people about this stuff. It's wild to me that they have the ability to do that, because I tried to, like we were doing, and we will do once Chris gets his schedule back and has Sundays and can get camera equipment in place. I've still got the podium. We can do post-game press conferences. I tell you what though, I permanently chipped my elbow falling off the podium one day in my garage/driveway. Like that's who I am when these games end. I have a world of respect for anybody who can go have a nuanced conversation about a Bills game in the immediate aftermath of it. I've been called, like I've seen people talk about, oh, this guy's just a prisoner of the moment. Yes. But I also think that that's why half of you show up for it. Because some of you feel the same way. You too are prisoners of the moment. And even though you know, like, hey, this 1 week, probably a blip on the radar, not a huge deal that the Bills just dropped this game. But if it feels huge, you have a lot of emotions about it and you want to talk about it. That makes me entertaining to a certain degree and to a certain crowd of people, and it also makes me completely unfit to be put anywhere near recording equipment in the immediate aftermath of the game.
Do you want to know about the? So one of my favorite moments of this podcast happened at, and by the way, Oliver from England, my condolences on your 9 years of bullshit. Going to deep. Every summer we do a Cover One meetup, and usually it's the first couple of years it was at Deep South Taco, where we met Greg Thompson, who it's one of my favorite stories to listen about, because everybody thinks that you're a shtick, and Greg Thompson thought Drew was a shtick.
This is a character.
Yeah.
This is a character I fabricated in my free time because some people might find it compelling.
No, you're a real person.
Just to tell you guys a story on that. So 2 days ago, Greg Thompson sends me a picture, and it's a meme of like two hearts sitting on a dock, and it's a big one and a little one. It's supposed to represent a father and son. And it's like, in this heart says, father sharing his love of fishing with his son. And the one next to it says, I wonder what worms taste like. And it's like the little kid that's supposed to be like leaning in to like grab a worm.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him the story. Well, in fact, we'll get to it in a minute because I have a question for you. We've been doing this for 9 years. We've told a lot of things about ourselves, but
Well,
I still find ways to shock that guy.
Did you drink that beer yet, or did you?
I cracked it, and I'm scared. So
because-
Chris picked me up some Narragansett ale. And the famous Narragansett, it says it's the official beer of the Clam, and it's sold on merit. Now, I have a former coworker, Pete, who is from the New England area, born and raised, and he's in his late 50s. And when I asked him about Narragansett, I go, oh, you must know about that. It's from your area, your neck of the woods. What do you think about it? He goes, well, the Narragansett's a river. And we're pretty sure that they call the beer Narragansett because they actually just go down to the river and scoop water out and then pour it into whatever horse piss they can't sell of any other brand and call it Narragansett.
So I was at Premier Gourmet, and I sent a text to our friend of the show, Christian Simonelli. What do you know about this beer? Says it's a Rhode Island brew. Is this what you got fucked up on in high school? It sucks ass. That's what he said.
Here's the best part. You know where it's based out of?
Rochester.
Rochester. He goes, oh, yeah, Narragansett. I know that. Rochester, New York. The official beer of the Clam. The hell is the Clam? Like, I'm supposed to know. What hayseed developed the marketing for this? It's a beer that's, I mean, it tastes like I would expect creek water to taste. Like, it's a beer. It's a beer. It technically fits the bill of being a beer. It's not only nothing special. Like, remember when we drank Montucky for the first time?
Yeah.
I said, I
I had it before you.
I think I called it Coors Light and Rattlesnake Boots.
Yes.
Okay. This is like we all have this friend. Everybody has a buddy who is the definition of wallflower. Milk toast might be a word you would use to describe them. They could be at an event or they could not be, and you wouldn't know the difference. Like, you just wouldn't know. That's this beer. This beer could be here, it could be not. It could be any beer. It literally has no distinctive taste, flavor, smell, anything. I don't know why this exists, Chris.
Oliver said, you're telling me a Clam drinks this ale? And then Jason Hicksonbaugh, the Clam is a famous seafood restaurant in New York City. So I don't know if that's like the... And then Bill's Blitzkrieg just chimed in. Gansett, it's just good beer.
It's just good beer? PBR is a good beer. If I'm looking for a good beer that doesn't cost a fortune, you drink PBR, but you go into it knowing that there is no such thing as one. Right? Like, I'm not just going to drink one PBR. That's pointless because it doesn't even taste all that good. But I'm going to have, like, you're either going to have 7 and not have a shirt on, or you will drink 0 and they're like, you will like it. That's it. Those are the boundaries. This beer, like I said, it has no distinctive flavor. It has no distinctive smell, no taste. It's neutral. It's like Switzerland. That's how neutral this beer is. It might as well just not exist. I'm telling you. I'm really disappointed. I was hoping for it's that thing of if you can't be good, be special, be memorable. It doesn't matter if you're being offensive. Do something that makes the recipient or the person on the other end feel something. And if you can't do that, then I don't need you. This beer stinks.
I mean, I had one earlier because Jessica ordered in some General Tso's chicken. So I was like, you got to split one with me because I want to know what it's bland, boring, taste of like there's nothing like, yeah, I'd like to have one after I mow the lawn or do like a little bit of yard work. It seems like that would just, that's fine. Does the job, quenches my thirst.
This is what a dickhead I am. I wanted to name like 4 different podcasts, and you were like bland, boring, uninterested, and I go, no, we're being nice today. We're doing this because, guys, it's a celebration, guys. We're here. We're having a good time, right? What else do you got? You got anything else?
Your 2016 draft review.
Oh God!
But I'll tell you what, going back to the Bills and Reggie Ragland, this pick is right now. This draft is shaping up to be a defensive home run for the Bills.
That hurts my eyes. That's the chlorine bleed. That is the mustard gas.
There's no visual. It's just audio.
Thank God. Hearing that and the confidence in my voice, like the smug, like, oh man, I'm so thrilled about this. God, that is the beauty of hindsight, right? You get to look back and go, what a foolish ass I was. What an idiot. Oh, what a loser that guy was.
Off the bus starters.
2016 Drew Gear sucked, both at podcasting and just anything. Like, knowing the game of football and like knowing to talk about the draft, I was too stupid to know I should just shut up and let smarter people have the floor. That's it. That's where you just shut your mouth and become a facilitator of conversation. And I feel like we've done that. We've kind of found our stride, and that's the maturation process of a podcast over 9 years, and especially one that covers just one specific topic that happens to be a sports team. we've talked about a lot. Like Chris, like think about some of the interviews. Like I think our interviewing style has changed. I think a lot of things stylistically about what we do has changed. A lot of that has to do with the fact that our lives are different. What's your life like right now? You're married. You're working a weird shift. Like it's different than it was when we started this.
Yeah, it's
You were never getting married again when we started this.
Yeah, and I did. It's not ideal to work the schedule that I work and do this podcast. It's frankly annoying, and I'm looking forward to being able to switch my shift.
And now we're doing video. And to be honest, the video portion of this, well, we're learning how to do it. I mean, we're not good at it by far. We suck at this. But we're getting better. And we got pretty good at the podcast format. So now it's just reps and it's figuring out the wrinkles of how do you approach this new thing that you want to do. And that's what this whole thing is. You should always be evolving. You should always be learning new things and trying new things and changing. And you should change along with it because you're not going to be the same person you were over time, right? So why shouldn't this thing also evolve? And it's getting there. We're figuring out formats that work for us. We're figuring out preparation things that work for us, stuff that doesn't work. stuff that doesn't work, which we'll talk about in a second. We've also, I feel like for all the things we've talked about, Chris, there's still plenty of, like my wife has to constantly tell me that, hey, some things don't need to be podcast fodder. But I feel like we've been more so than anybody else in this space who does this. We've opened up to our listeners with just honesty. Honesty about not just our thoughts and like takes on things, but just who we are as people. What's one story that our listeners, or one thing about you that our listeners don't know about you?
I mean, God, I'd have to. Joe Miller's in here.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he just finished his live stream. I'd have to.
After 9 years, what is something that nobody knows about you yet?
I'd have to honestly think about that.
I don't. Well, here
I'm pretty open on the show
mm-hmm.
because some people will reach out to us after something I've said or you've said, and be like, "Oh, hey, I relate to this situation." Whether it's
because we're just dudes.
Yeah. Whether it's like, I'm sure people reach out to you after Jack was born and the whole situation with Larissa that happened.
Yep.
You say it on the show. Other people may have may have experienced it, and they reach out and offer their side of how they handled certain things.
We're just dudes being dudes. So here's the thing you guys don't know. Now, Chris, where's my single? Which is my camera? This one? All right. So remember earlier when I said Greg Thompson sent me a thing about kids eating worms? So my response to Greg when he sent me that meme was to respond with the fact that growing up, my father we'd be fishing, and it was me and my brothers, and either we'd be on a creek side or we'd be in a rowboat at my great aunt's cottage, and he'd be having to bait our hooks for us. So ripping worms, if you've ever fished, is really hard. So he would bite them, just like bite them in half real quick, spit it out, put it on a hook. You see that, and you go, I could bite a worm. So you're 7, 8 years old, biting worms. The moment that it dawns on you that it, like for me, the moment that I realized it wasn't going to kill me, and that it didn't make me sick, in fact, if anything, chewing a worm was no different than chewing anything else, I tapped into something, and I became a menace. Playgrounds, summer camp, you're out there, there's a bunch of kids, everyone's sitting around in the park, and there's trees, and there's counselors who are trying to keep the peace. And one of my things was, especially after a good rain, you'd get some worms and you could take them and I would put them in my mouth and make it look like I was eating them and just run up on a group of kids and make monster noises. And the screams. You'd think a bomb went off in the middle of the park and it was just me with a mouthful of worms. You could also scare the hell out of certain adults if you caught them at the right time with one of those. And that made it feel like a superpower. I didn't mind being the dude who, like, there's something, like, I learned early on in life that you could really set a tone in a room if you just munch a couple bugs casually, just in front of people. And it reminded me of when Ron Swanson pulls out his own tooth in Parks and Rec. And he's like, sometimes you got to remind your coworkers that you're tougher than them. you can set a tone for people real quick if you pick up a grasshopper and just take a bite out of it. I tell Greg this, and his response was, after all these years, you still find ways to shock me. Guys, this is it. You need to get to know the people who you're listening to and who you're watching and who you're following. And this is me. I put it out here for you because I'm not ashamed of it. This is just two dudes being honest with microphones and beers.
I think my final year trick-or-treating, I might have been a freshman in high school. I might have been like 13 or 14.
14's a rough age to be out there trick-or-treating.
It was the freshman year of high school. So freshman year, I did half year at public school, and then the end of my freshman year at
homeschool
at a private school, and then finished out the private school.
By private school, you mean the Kruger Academy of Greatness?
No, Mill Springs Academy in Milton, Georgia. So I had only been there not long. I forget how we ran the if it was quarters or who gives a fuck. I always did trick-or-treating on skates because you could get to the houses quick. Get all the food. And I went to the neighborhood next to mine, and there was a girl at my school. I went to her house, and she was like a senior. She was there with her boyfriend, who also went to the school, and they were handing out candy. And I remember he was like, "Here, take 2." And I grabbed a handful, and I put it in like my pillowcase. And because I can skate, I fucking took off. And he's real fat. He ran after me and tackled me in someone else's yard in front of a group of kids. And then took a handful of candy out of my bag and then walked back to his girlfriend's house. So there's that.
I don't know what is better about that story. First of all, 14 trick-or-treating is a rough one. Like, when you are almost legally allowed to drive, I feel like you should. First of all, you had to be one of the tallest people out there trick-or-treating. You had to be one of the biggest people, and then you're on skates, so you were easily taller than even some of the adults who were out there.
But I always trick-or-treated on skates from, I think my entire time in Georgia.
You getting laid out on rollerblades is my dream. I always hope that I come in here one day when you say you're rollerblading by the waterfront, and I hope you're just all road rashed up, and you can be like, some kid threw a stick, like in the movie Big Daddy. Some kid threw a stick, and you've just got gravel rash on your face.
Yeah.
See, guys, I love it that he and I, like, we might have egos about some of the aspects of what we do here, but it's not, we definitely don't have egos about who we are and how we approach this. And I appreciate that we've built up a fan base of people who just show up for it. And when they don't, I don't blame them. It's summer. Do you know what I did with my day today? After the week I friggin' had? Me and Iman Azizi, who I co-own Q42 Barbecue with, we did practice. I day drank in my garage, and we kind of intermittent rain, super windy day. We did food prep in the garage and grilled out the driveway and practiced for a steak competition we have in Erie, Pennsylvania in July. Speaking of which, for those of you who don't like professional grade, like pro level steak competitions or cooking competitions or anything like that, but you still want to, or maybe you're learning, maybe you have a competitive itch and you think you're really good at this, we actually have our second annual Grills Mafia Backyard Throwdown Steak Competition. It's going to be August 3rd. It's a Saturday in Lancaster, New York. Sign up right now is at our website. $150 buy-in gets you a $500 grand prize. Payouts for each of the places. A lot of swag and prizes to give away. There's a lot of stuff tied up in it.
Do you get to have dinner with Reed?
Reed will be there handing out an autographed jersey to the grand champion. And he'll be there with me for the awards ceremony, although I'll do all the talking because for a dude who tackles people for a living, he's actually, I don't know, he's somewhat reluctant to get behind the mic. Whereas I love the sound of my own voice. I'll get in there. I'll get in there if there's no crowd. You give me a soundstage and some lighting. Let me rip. So, guys, if you're interested and you want to come out, check it out. Q42bbq.com is the sign up, or you can go check out the rules and find out more about the competition itself. If you're interested in having a steak cook-off challenge, a bunch of people here in Buffalo. Last year was so much fun. It was a hit. This year's going to be even bigger. We've got sponsors this time, so we've got nicer things. We've got stuff for all the competitors. It'll be a good time. Go check it out. Q42bbq.com. Don't go to Q42.com. And now that I said that a bunch of you just did, like you paused this podcast and did it, and now you know why I said don't do that. Hopefully you weren't at work. But Eamon and I cooked steaks all day, and I put no thought or effort into like, hey man, I got to do a ton of research on this stuff. You know why? Because right now, I'm not going to lie to you. We believe in honesty. We're here being honest with you about stuff. There is nothing, like I give all the credit in the world to the guys who are out here still trying to spin plates and talk about the Bills. Because there is really nothing going on. I mean, it's a desert here. Chris, you and I have made jokes about some of the stuff we've seen people talk about.
Yes.
Ranking head coaches. Why? If you really care about it, do you? But I couldn't. Pre-camp roster projections. A month before players even report. Like, what are we doing? Chris, I would rather make out with you on the Jumbotron at Ralph Wilson Stadium during halftime of a Monday Night Football game than talk about roster locks. You remember Charlie Gross?
Funny you say that. I've been on the Jumbotron with a dude for Kiss Cam.
How is that not the thing that you went with for something we didn't know about you? That's amazing.
I think it's known. I'll have to see if I can't.
I'm not going to lie. I would have done it. At that point, you have to. When that guy hits you with the kiss cam, it's go time. I'm not a coward. Pucker up.
It's no, it was back when you can back in those days when you can just call someone that word and everybody would be fine with it.
See, that's
that's
not acceptable. I don't like that. What I think is you at least lean in. It's a gentlemanly gesture. You do it, you see what comes of it. If it happens, your wife or girlfriend will understand. It's like, look, that's hilarious. The whole place is laughing because I wasn't a coward. I leaned into it. It's funny. Also, Chris, I'm not going to lie. Well, this was before you had that haircut, so.
I had a hat on in the photo.
That's a PA. That is a personal attack. I'm sorry. We're trying to be nice here. Guys, I just don't have it in me. I don't care. I don't care about these things in the month of June. I don't know what it is about that month, but for something happens where the month of June comes and I glaze over like a donut. There's guys out there. Joe Miller, who's in the chat. He's got a show. Him and John Fina and Jerry Ostrowski were talking about the movement, our new center, and just how the movement from guard to center probably won't be that big of a deal because he spent his whole life playing center, and he hasn't done it in the pros, but he's familiar with it. Awesome. That conversation coming from two former offensive linemen is probably really insightful. And they probably have some things from their own experience that they can lend to that makes it an interesting listen. Go do that. Joe Marino every day has a podcast. And every single day it's something intelligent. It's something meaningful that I look at it and I go, God, I wish I was as smart as that guy about this stuff. But I'm not. And I'm not going to try to be. Because doing that would make me like, Chris, you know that whole thing like imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Like I get this feeling like I'm like, if I were to try to do that, it would not only, first of all, it would become blazingly obvious that I'm not fit to be holding that conversation. But also, it's just not anything I care about doing the prep work for. So not only would I sound like an idiot, but I would waste hours of my own time when there's somebody out there who gives you a better version of that. Go listen to that if that's your bag. Over at Cover One, our friend Anthony Prohaska just had Mina Kimes on his podcast, Disguise Coverage. Amazing episode. And it got Anthony a lot of exposure that I think he deserves. I think out of a lot of the guys who work for their network, Anthony doesn't get as much run as he should. And I'm was really happy to see him get in with someone like Mina and watch the conversation that they got to have. Chris, he killed it.
Yeah, he did.
Harry Potter references and all. It was a great listen, and I urge you to go listen to that if you're really thirsty for, oh my God, I have to have Bill-centric news in the month of June. I am not your teacher. I'm not your educator. I damn sure better not be a role model. Was it Chuck? Charles Barkley?
Yeah.
I'm not a role model?
Joe said the off season sucks. It's hard to create content right now. The next 3 weeks will be brutal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what isn't?
Wait,
you know what isn't?
Is that Joe Miller?
Yeah. You know what isn't brutal?
What?
There you go, right there, over here.
All right, that's actually pretty cool. You played
Also,
it well.
Everybody's looking at it now. On YouTube, everybody on YouTube.
Look and see, you figured it out. You figured out how to get the picture-in-picture working.
Well, I mean, it's the whole picture. You see me and my friend Ugo from I got those when I was working at 680 The Fan. I got those tickets from 680 The Fan where we were sitting, the radio station I was working for, and I had 4 tickets. I went with my friends. I took my friends Brian, Ugo, and Julia, and me and Ugo were sitting next to each other, and then it was Julia, then Brian. So, and I literally told them, looks like Ugo and I are going to get on Kiss Cam because we all I all handed out Sabres apparel for everyone to wear. And I think the Sabres ended up losing that game, but yeah.
Shocker.
Ended up on Kiss Cam. That I did end up on another one for a Devils game because my friend Brian was a Devils fan. So I've been on Kiss Cam in that situation twice. It was always the last two. The last photo in the Kiss Cam rotation was 2 dudes of the opposing team.
Hell yeah.
Classic comedy.
That's
when
awesome.
comedy was real.
That's like a 90s bromance, like 90s sitcom bromance comedic moment, and I love it because that's kind of what this entire show is. It's just 2 dudes drinking and saying things that are outlandish and occasionally having intelligent football conversations sprinkled in there with it. And for the people who are just finding us now who don't know that, it's really funny. I've never read comments before. I've never cared about YouTube comments, Reddit comments.
But when you read them, that means you do care.
So today, I went back through our YouTube videos for the last couple of weeks, and some of the people who found the need to comment are hilarious. Like, there was a guy who tunes in and says, once again, I'm trying to get through the BS beginnings of these podcasts. Strap in, idiot. It only gets worse from here. The beginnings. Are you here for the middle and the end? It doesn't get much better.
Ring of Edwin wants to talk about OJ.
We should do a whole... That's a podcast I would love. Let's talk about the OJ situation.
Yeah. 94, his death. Hello, Twitter world.
Remember when he wrote a book about how he would do it?
Oh, if I did it.
If I did it. And then here's the best part. He once was quoted as being like, yo, I don't want to go to LA anymore because I could be out at a restaurant and who knows, I might be in the room with the guy who killed my ex. And it's like, you're there every day. Every single day you're in the room. It's just funny, like, watching people react to what this is and what we are and how we are. And not understanding that it's not everybody else and we're not buttoned up and we're not professional and we're not trying to be. I mean, look at this. Chris and I, like, this video thing is new. I'm here trying to figure out, like, Chris left the room. I now have to I'm watching YouTube now to figure out where the hell my camera is. Where am I? Am I here? Am I there? Okay, so it's this one. So this video thing has been a nightmare. We've tried to go live every single week. It fails at least once. At least one time our attempt to go live fails. Our cameras don't load. We use the A10 camera switcher, which is like a baby version of what Joe Rogan has. It's the same company, same thing, just a smaller model, to run multicam. And it's supposed to be able to go live, and we still haven't worked the kinks out of that. Also, I don't know how to do a live podcast yet without responding to you bums. And when I say you bums, I mean the guy who, I'm happy to talk about it, Chris, because it almost derailed our very first attempt at going live. We were live for 10 minutes and somebody comes in and it's like comment number 5 in the thread. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to do a good show. I want to watch the comments. I'll keep an eye on what people are saying. And then that will help me deliver a better product. And one of the first comments is somebody asking, hey, is it cool if I just say insert racial epitaph here in this chat? And it took me right out of the conversation. It almost derailed the podcast. I told Chris he had to make the video private and edit it out and re-upload the thing because it shocked me that anyone would just show up to a live podcast and ask if that's okay. What the hell is happening here? Looking back at it, I almost wonder if someone wasn't trying to sabotage us right out of the gate.
It's possible. Look what I'm doing here. This is a on the fly old fashioned, and I'm stirring with a pen. How about that? Look at that.
We are still figuring out how to make this video thing work, but we're steering into it because after 9 years, just standard podcasting has gotten a little old. And ultimately, Chris turns out has a knack for this video thing. So then it's just how do we make it work? And we're figuring it out. We're learning. Right? And I think that you kind of have to do that. Right? Figuring out picture-in-picture, real-time graphical inserts, video clips that we can play in the corner of things that we're talking about. Chris, we've always done things a little bit different from everybody else.
Yeah, we're in the same room.
But I just mean like from our approach to this. Because our approach was never about like, hey, it started out, hey, let's be buttoned up. And after 6 months, I almost quit. This show was almost a statistic. The statistics that we rattled off the top of the show about 6 months being the cutoff. About a year into this, I'd say, I considered just punting. I didn't want to do it anymore. And I didn't see traction. I didn't see downloads happening. Things weren't moving. I appreciate you, sir. Stuff just wasn't going anywhere. And I was over here trying to be this buttoned up version of what I thought a podcaster was supposed to be. It was a guy who sat behind a microphone and gave you I'm Walter Cronkite, and this is what's going on with the Buffalo Bills. And I need to be poignant, and my thoughts need to be even-handed, and I shouldn't be me. I should be this person that I think you want to hear. And then it dawned on me that we need to just do it our way. And if that's a sloppy mess that drives you all crazy, so be it.
You know, I gave up on coaching you through things that I learned in actual media with real people like Steak Shapiro and John Kincaid and Buck Ballou. Do this, project your voice, speak with your diaphragm. Nope. None of that.
I'm uncoachable. I'm unwilling to change. It's brutal. And it's the only way I've ever wanted to do this. And I'll tell you this, for those of you who feel the need to comment on our YouTube videos and other things, you can continue doing it. Today's the first time I looked. It'll be years before I do it again because I genuinely don't care. Just know that if my 9th grade classmates in high school couldn't bully me into getting braces, you sure as hell aren't going to change my podcast. Just because you think I bloviate too much about my personal life.
Give that a rip. I got this this morning. I'll have to hold this back so it's in focus. It's bourbon from 49 Mile Straight Bourbon Whiskey, limited edition single barrel from San Francisco Distilling Company, aged 7 years, barrel 15, bottle 176. It's a 90 proofer. I had some straight earlier today. It goes down smooth.
I do like that.
Put that in your pipe hole.
Guys.
And Joe, we got to get Joe Miller on so we can try some of this.
Anybody out there who has a glass, who's drinking at home or drinking while you listen to this, raise a glass with me. Chris, we've done it our way for 9 years. I don't know how much longer this thing goes on for, but I'm looking forward to whatever the hell we figure.
We're gonna
Who knows
pass
how
it.
we put together.
We're passing it on to Jack and Tommy.
At what point? Because you know what? When I was looking for those, first of all, cheers to you, man. Thank you.
Drink that. There's no bite. 90 proof.
That is very good, Chris. Thank you. When I was looking at the statistics that I quoted at the top of the show, one of the things I came across was an article that was like seven signs it's time to quit your podcast. And part of them was you feel that something about how you feel like your age precludes you from connecting with your listeners the way it once did. Remember when Bill Belichick said he wasn't going to be a 70-year-old man walking around in an NFL sideline, and then he coached 5 more years into his 70s?
And then he became a 72-year-old man leaving people's front porch shirtless.
Was that before or after he started dating a 24-year-old?
That was whose house he was leaving, allegedly. He just left shirtless.
Here's a question. My wife and I had this actual conversation. Bill Belichick, if you are that girl's father, she's 24 years old, you know your daughter's attractive. She's a cheerleader. You know you've known your entire life. Like, my daughter is attractive. She's going to date guys. It's going to be a thing that I have to deal with. And then one day she brings home, it's Thanksgiving, and she shows up with her boyfriend, and it's Bill Belichick. Now, if she's 24, you're probably in what, Chris? Your late 50s, early 60s?
Yeah.
Probably somewhere in there.
Belichick.
If I'm playing the odds.
Belichick, most likely older than her dad.
Older than her dad. Are you mad? Like, do you look at that and go, what the hell are you doing? And how much of that gets washed away by the fact that it's Bill Belichick? And also, how awkward does Thanksgiving get when he sits down and you're like, oh, hey, football's on. And you're going to make a comment about what's going on in the TV. And you're like, oh, they shouldn't be punting here. And you just hear a quiet scoff from the couch behind you. And it's just Bill sitting there with a whiskey in his hand, just looking at you. Like, I feel like it goes one of two ways with Bill Belichick dating your 24-year-old daughter. You either fanboy out, or there comes a point where you're talking to about, and you ask him every football question that you have on your mind. Or you fight that guy. Like, a fight just breaks out. It happens. There is an incident that involves the police and all of the neighbors out watching you, Belichick shirtless on a front porch again, as you wrestle the shirt off of him and throw him out of your home. I don't see another way that interaction ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go, there's no way that there's no way they should have gone for 2 there. And Bill Belichick just dads you in that dry delivery of his about the game of football. You either have to acknowledge that you just got schooled in your own home, or you fight the guy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the girl from New England?
I have no idea where she's from. All I know is that she's 24.
It's amazing. It's a great world we live in where this is possible.
Somebody tweeted out a picture of like her as a baby, or probably took a picture of a baby, and then Bill Belichick at his press conference when he left the Jets. And was like Bill Belichick when his girlfriend was born, and it's a picture of baby and him saying that he resigns as Jets head coach.
Listen, I'm not here trying to be ageist. I just think that's wild. Good for Bill. Good for Bill. I'm glad that now that he's separated from the New England Patriots, good things are happening for that guy. Hopefully he stays just dating younger women and stays the hell away from football. Like that's my hope for him and for his entire family, because I'm sure his kids must love that. Oh, dad's dating someone younger than us. Awesome. I'm sure this won't be awkward at Christmas.
Yeah.
These are the things I feel like talking about today. Now, coming up in July, we have a lot of stuff that we're going to ramp up into. First of all, our live shows will continue. We're also, Chris, if you can give me this camera, we're also going to be doing we're bringing back the AFC's roundup. It's going to be fun. We're going to have different guests on to talk about divisional opponents and their off-season hopes and fears for training camp, all of these things through the lens of somebody who covers the team and who we regularly talk to, who you guys have gotten to know. I like this series. I like the concept of it. I like what we've done with the roundup over the last couple of years. I think it's different. It's something new because what we were doing before got stale and we changed it. Now there's going to be video components to these things. And again, it's more fun. It's things we're going to learn and keep doing and keep expanding upon. Live shows. Eventually, by the time that there's going to be a whiner line, we're going to open up the Rockpile Report weekly whiner line to talk about as we recap games. We're also going to be doing our recap shows live when the regular season hits, which is half the reason we have to keep doing these live videos kind of on the fly that we're not even publicizing, because I need reps. I suck at this. I will get better, but I suck right now, and I'm okay with admitting that to the 50 people who show up to watch this.
How about housekeeping? Saturday, I'm leaving to go to North Carolina for some vacation. So even with the 3 to 11 schedule this week, you may do a NFL lawsuit Sunday ticket with Lacel this week, and you can still send it to me, and I'll edit the audio and put it out. Can I tell you the only thing I know about this lawsuit is when you had mentioned to me, like, oh, this lawsuit's going on, and I'm like, in my head, I went like, it was like 8 years ago that the NHL, MLB, NBA all bent the knee and started offering team packages. NHL doesn't do that anymore because the NHL, it's now NHL Power Play on ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus has that package. It's no longer its own entity as NHL.TV. But when you told me that you wanted to do a show about them, that was the first. I'm like, wait, the other leagues already did this years ago.
So scroll down here for me. So, guys, this is what you want to talk about. Real things. There are real, tangible things to talk about. I just feel like most Bills fans don't give a damn about it, and I needed time to get my ducks in a row to talk about it. And I really don't feel like I'm back into it until the month of July. July for me, like late June, early July, is when I really get things flowing again. There's 2 lawsuits happening right now, both involving the NFL that nobody's talking about. And I can't wait over the next week or two to cover them with you guys. The antitrust lawsuit over the Sunday ticket that not only, it's been suppressed by every single, the fact that he didn't know about it, this thing has been suppressed by every single major media outlet that has ties to the NFL. Whether they've got a sports department that covers the NFL, whether they air games. ESPN, for instance, no mention of the fact that the NFL is being sued. And there's a jury involved. ESPN's emails and statements were actually part of the prosecution's case. That the league has been conspiring against its own fan base to intentionally and artificially overprice the Sunday ticket to insulate the value of its standard TV contracts. And also actively suppressed entities with streaming platforms and the ability to bring the people, bring us, like ESPN tried to get together with a few teams and create single team season streaming packages. Hey, wherever you are, you can watch every single game of this team. And the NFL shot it down. They actively were. Now, Chris L. Davis, almost 30 years ago, taught us every single one of these teams is an individual business and has to be allowed to make its decisions that way. Otherwise, you're in violation of antitrust laws. And that was what L. Davis used to move his football team. When he was like, oh, we voted against your move, and he goes, well, I'm moving anyway. The league has been conspiring to basically force us to either overspend for a streaming package to just see our team or prevent someone from providing a cost-effective solution for us. And when people go, oh, what's the big deal about that? Not only does that mean that the league that you know and love hates you, the consumer, they don't like you. They like what's in your back pocket, right? They like this. Also, the fallout of this lawsuit has the potential to upset the apple cart of how our current salary cap is constructed. Because if the prosecution wins, and I'm sure it'll be appealed, and then under appeal wins. And it opens the doors for individual teams to sell the rights to its teams. Jerry Jones went on the stand last week, and nobody knew about it unless you were covering this closely. Jerry Jones, under oath, took the stand and took a shot at Paul Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals because that's what a piece of shit Jerry Jones is, and I love it. But
Did you hear about Goodell?
And so this is it. No,
Goodell took a shot at his own production of NFL Network in the Thursday night games when they had it. He was like, the production was fucking terrible.
So this is my point. There's a lot of stuff here that's not being talked about, but I know it. I'm following it. I'm happy to put together a great podcast for you guys about this and a video cast with statistics about this other NFL lawsuit that, again, really not that much talk about how the NFL colluded to suppress contract offers to Lamar Jackson after he was given the non-exclusive tag by the Ravens and essentially squashed him and his agent's pursuit of a fully guaranteed contract like Deshaun Watson got. Chris, he's 5 times the quarterback that Deshaun Watson is. Now, obviously, it's the Cleveland Browns. No one should be shocked that the Cleveland Browns did a stupid thing and other teams don't want to replicate that. But at the same time, nobody made an offer to him. Not a single offer sheet got given to the Ravens. The Falcons are the smoking gun here because they had the second most cap space available. Could have offer sheeted him, could have given up 2 first-round picks, and yet told everyone that they, quote-unquote, felt good about the decision of not pursuing Lamar Jackson. Look at what their quarterback room has been and will be going forward. That's a joke. So they're suing the NFL. And what's going to happen through the discovery process is they're going to go through owners' emails and text messages and all kinds of communications. And it's going to get wild. The NFL is being sued, and Chris, no one's talking about it.
No.
I don't see that. Joe, if you're still here, Joe Miller, I don't hear about that on the Overreaction Network.
Yeah.
I love you. This is what we do. I talk about things that I care about and that I'm qualified to speak on. And I can't wait to bring you these types of shows over the next couple weeks.
Let me tell you this.
As we ramp up towards training camp talk and everything else.
Do you know how many people I know that have ever had Sunday Ticket? The answer is 1, and it's fucking you. You're the only. It's like Sunday Ticket is only meant for bars.
No, and do you know how I got the green light to start buying the Sunday Ticket?
Because you went Puerto Rican on DirecTV customer service.
No, what happened is I showed my wife my tab from one day. Now, my then girlfriend, who I was living with, we moved in together. We get DirecTV, and I go, ooh, DirecTV, the Sunday Ticket. Ooh, I've got 2 TVs in my basement that has a wet bar. Ooh, this is my dream. And I tell her about it, and she goes, it's really expensive. I don't know. Should we really be paying for that? And I go, I'll show you. And so I go out one afternoon with the guys, and we go to the bar, and we're watching football from the 1 p.m. games into the 4 p.m. hour, and I come home in between the 4 p.m. games and the 8 p.m. game. And I show her my tab. Do you know how much? Figure food and booze for me for 10 hours. 8 hours.
$150. Well, if we're adding in Larissa.
No. She wasn't with me. It was just me.
I would say
and
it's
this
still
didn't,
150 to 200.
And this was before Uber was as robust as it was. So this was me taking a cab home. Cab ride plus my tab.
300.
It was about $265.
I like it.
And I told her, I go, this is one day. Or you could just let me do this here in the sanctity of our home. You'll know where I am. I'm not getting in trouble. I'm not causing chaos. I mean, I might be causing chaos, but you can always just shut the door. You can just shut the door and the chaos disappears. And that's how I got the Sunday Ticket.
You know how poor we are over here at the Rockpile Report? Jessica in the comments, not my wife.
I was gonna say,
she's
is she commenting from upstairs?
no, she's asking about the John Gruden case. That's another thing you could cover, and then also it's
Oh, I've got notes on all of
as
it.
small of a show as this is. There's a comment in there from a major channel called Bootleg Football. EJ Snyder says, "Congrats, boys, for 9 years."
It has been
It's-
funny how many people we've gotten to meet, the elbows we've gotten to rub, the places I've gotten to go, the experiences I've had just because of this stupid podcast. The podcast that doesn't get to the football talk fast enough.
I like how Jessica just said, "Drew's poor wife, my poor wife." You guys share the same name. My poor wife.
His wife has to deal with me too.
She's probably upstairs listening to this. Now she'll probably get in the chat and say something before we stop it.
So we have had a lot of fun. More fun than I think is allowed by law.
Yes.
I think that this is why we don't have a Patreon, because I don't feel like what we do is worth anything monetarily. We've found people who are willing to pay us, which is still, it feels like theft to me.
We do it. There is the super chat ability. Nobody's.
Don't you dare.
Don't
If you
anybody
pay-
use it.
Do you know how much I cringe when I watch somebody pay $5 to ask another adult human being a question? The hell's wrong with you? In fact, if anything, if you're going to do a super chat because you want your thing to be seen by everybody and you want us to have to react to it, it better be insulting and it better be funny. Like, it better be a really good shot at one of us, because that's the only thing I would ever pay for.
Yeah, yeah.
Chris did it one time. I was doing a show with Greg Thompson and Mario Granada of Hashtag Sports and Rico from Buffalo Fanatics.
Yeah.
We were doing this like panel discussion, and Chris paid a real hard-earned American dollar so that he could do a super chat just to have it put up on the screen that he was really happy they could get Harambe for the panel. Talking about me.
I mean, it'd take me a minute to put it up on the screen for everybody. I mean, I can if you give me, but I wrote for $2. Who let Harambe on here?
Guys, I love you. And I love the fact that I get to sit here and do this every week. Because during the season, it's cathartic. And it helps me. It helps me cope. And I learn things. And I learn, I don't know, it kind of shapes my expectations. And sometimes it helps me check my own biases about sports and what I think I know about this team that I love and I care about. I love it. And I love that some of you love watching me go through that discovery process. And I like that we get to have what just feels like a barroom conversation, because that's all I ever wanted. All I've ever wanted for all of this is to be a couple guys sitting around having drinks, talking like we're at a bar. Maybe we've done a little prep. That's it. That's all I've ever wanted. And I've gotten that. I love it. I love the new stuff we're dabbling in, failing at, but dabbling in.
Yeah.
But Chris, how many times did we do tonight? We only crashed and burned once trying to launch this.
Yeah.
That's a record. Hey, raise a glass. I'll drink to you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
We're
Here.
close.
I don't know if this will zoom in. Look at this on that camera. If you live in California, get this bourbon. It is that shit's smooth, right?
It's really good. Chris, we're not professionals.
No, we're not.
We're not trying to be. We're trying to be good at this, but good is subjective.
We know. Look, we know professionals. If we need professionals, we can reach out to them. If we need to have a professional on, like a Brett Coleman, a EJ Snyder, a Greg Thompson, we can reach out to them. We have their phone numbers. They can come on and be professional on our show.
They can be the professionals.
Yeah, because we have questions and we don't have time. Like, what was the dude in the fifth round? Edifwan Uafoshio. We wouldn't know about
If
him
it wasn't for EJ.
if it wasn't for EJ. We had EJ on for our linebackers episode. He said, you got to look at this guy out of Washington, great coverage linebacker, and look at the situation as a fifth-round pick he's walking into. Bob Babich, Matt Milano, Bernard. He's got He's got all of the available resources to learn from. So he better be good as a 5th-round pick, which was then not also Matt Milano, 5th-round pick?
Yes.
There we go.
Guys, it's been a hell of a run. And I like that we're pivoting and we're growing and we're learning, because if you're not, then you stagnate and you die. I love it. I feel like Peter Venkman when we're talking about the plan of crossing the streams, because Chris goes, hey, we're going to start doing live shows. I go, okay. And I go, what's the catch? He goes, well, it doesn't work when we try to go live the first time. Every time. Like every time it's going to take 3 or 4 attempts. One day it won't Hindenburg. It won't turn into
the last 2 have been better than the previous.
And I go,
other
wait a minute,
ones.
so what happens when we try this? And then the mics are going to be hot, but the video won't be working, and we're going to be fingering at each other. Like, what's happening? I feel like, but again, I feel like Peter Venkman when we're having the crossing the streams conversation. It's like, wait a minute. He goes, this is bad. This is bad. Everything's going to go sideways. We're going to look like complete idiots. We're going to make asses out of ourselves on the internet for everybody to see.
I don't know.
I love this plan.
I don't know.
I'm excited to be a part of it.
I don't know if I shouldn't read this, but I'm going to. From Jessica Tennis.
And is this how we close the show?
There is one hell of a communication school at SUNY Oswego.
Yeah, you know who failed out of there? This guy. The finest school anyone can fail out of with a .98 GPA. There's Chris, people are learning things about me all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a story for another podcast. Guys, we've been here for a while. Chris, what are we at? Like an hour 20?
Yeah, you're pretty good. According to A10 Mini Pro, an hour and 22 minutes and 45 seconds.
Guys, this has been fun. Thank you for 9 years of putting up with our horse shit.
Another 9 to go.
Looking forward to 9 more. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your Rockpile Report.